What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who ranking video. Today I'm going to be ranking every episode 7 from series 1 to 12. So, just as usual, this is going to be the ranking of all 12 episodes, series 1 to 12 for the episode 7s. This is my opinion, my personal ranking. I'd love to hear your rankings in the comments below, but do remember that this is my own opinion, and let's all be nice in the comments and respect each other's opinions. So anyway, let's just get started. Number 12. Kill the Moon from Series 8. Now here's an episode that honestly isn't too bad up until the end. I like the idea of these kind of spider creatures on the moon. It's an interesting thing. We don't really know what's going on. There's just these spiders on the moon and they're pretty creepy, I think. And yeah, they look pretty cool. Kind of they're black with like a bit of an orangey tinge to them. They look pretty cool. And generally throughout this episode, I think they're okay. I think some of the acting's a bit meh. The main woman, kind of space explorer, she's okay, but the rest of them are a bit meh. We've got Courtney in this episode, who, completely awful character. I hate her so much. She's just so annoying and obnoxious. The fact that she just like sprays the spider with like pesticide, I don't know, just whatever she sprays it with. What? Too convenient, too stupid. And yeah, the fact that the moon is an egg, sorry. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Other than that though, I think this episode could have been great if it wasn't for a couple of pretty major annoying parts. Number 11. Can You Hear Me from Series 12. Now here's an episode that really disappointed me, to be honest. Can You Hear Me was an episode that looked quite interesting, but really didn't deliver for me. And this one seemed to be one of the biggest kind of episodes from Series 12 that kind of had the fans a little bit divided. Some people really liked Can You Hear Me, from what I can tell. Others, like myself, though, really weren't a fan. I thought the godlike, I can't even remember what his name is now, but you know, the guy who his fingers came off, he was a pretty good actor and he was fairly menacing, but ultimately didn't get enough to do. Then, you know, his kind of story with that other woman, it was just a bit meh, and generally this episode just went very downhill. It went from a story that looked really interesting and exciting to just being really boring, and way too many characters in this one, overloaded with characters for sure. And yeah, ultimately it's just one of these episodes that I think could have been really, really good and looked really, really good, but was massively disappointing. Number 10. The Long Game from Series 1. The Long Game is my least favourite story from Series 1. It's just a bit bland and a bit boring, to be honest. I mean, it's not terrible, nothing from Series 1 is, but I think it is fairly well established to be the least favourite. Simon Pegg is great in this episode. Other than that, though, there's not a whole lot going on. I mean, you've got Adam, who is really, really terrible in this story. I mean, he's supposed to come off as unlikable, that's the point of his character, but god, you really, really do hate him so much here. The Mighty Jaggerfest, just a stupid, silly, ridiculous villain. This blob on the roof, really. And yeah, I mean, there's some interesting stuff going on here. There's kind of the whole satellite thing that's nice and, you know, ties into the finale. But ultimately, this kind of did just feel like a bit of a setup for the finale. And because of that, it falls short of it. Number 9. The Idiot's Lantern from Series 2. Now, this is one of the weaker David Tennant stories as well. However, I don't hate The Idiot's Lantern. For me, it's not the best, but it's not terrible. This is a lot of David Tennant on his own in this one. I mean, not really on his own, but he has that kind of detective with him and that kid as well. I can't remember their names now. But yeah, he's kind of partnered up with them for most of this because Rose fairly early on gets taken by the TV, by the wire, and her face gets disappeared, you know, her face disappears, and she's one of them, and the doctor's got to try and save her along with all the other people that this has happened to. Ultimately, I think this one really doesn't work, mainly because of the wire herself. She's very annoying. The whole hungry thing is so annoying. And I think it's a bit of a weird ending, you know, them climbing up the tower and, I don't know. I can see this through this one and I can enjoy it somewhat. And I think David Tennant's performance especially is really good here. But ultimately, it's not a particularly amazing plot. Number 8. The Pyramid at the End of the World from Series 10. This is the second part of the Monk trilogy, and it's okay. I mean, Extremis for me, the first part, which I had I think in like second or third place on the episode 6s, I think that's definitely the best part. And for me, this really does go down with each part. The Pyramid at the End of the World, I still think's okay. I reckon I need to watch it again, because I've only watched it a couple of times. But from what I remember, it was okay. It was a lot to do with, you've got the whole government thing. I think that's in this episode. All the different leaders of all countries, China, America, all these different places, Japan and all that. You've got all these different leaders, and, the monks are doing what they're doing, and they want to take over and whatever the hell's happening. But it's a really weird, interesting concept. And you've got the whole thing with trying to stop this disaster in this kind of nuclear plant. I think that side of it's quite interesting, but yeah, I think this is an okay story. For me though, it really goes downhill in the next part, and I think that in itself diminishes this one a little. Number 7. The Rings of Akutan from Series 7. Now this is kind of just an average episode. To be honest, I think I rate this one a little higher than some people. I honestly think it's mostly because of the speech. The Doctor's speech to the mighty sun god is one of the best speeches in Doctor Who. I love that speech and that scene. I love the music, the little girl and all the people singing. That is just such a beautiful scene. The rest of the episode though is pretty forgettable. I mean, you've got this whole god thing. They have to pray to the god or else people die, and you've got the weird creature which doesn't really do anything. It's just there as, we need a monster that's not just this big sun, let's have this thing. It doesn't really do anything. And ultimately the actual story itself isn't great. It's a nice first trip for Clara, I think, but yeah, it's not the most interesting. I honestly think this one gets higher up just because of the speech, because I love that speech so much. But yeah, the rest of the story is kind of just average. Number 6. The Saigon Invasion from Series 9. So this is the first part of the Saigon two-parter from Series 9. And, I mean, honestly, I think both parts kind of are at a similar sort of rating for me. I think the second part maybe boosts it up a little bit because of the speech. But the Saigon Invasion, I think, still a pretty decent episode. A very interesting cliffhanger with, Clara, who's actually been taken over. Well, this is a Saigon copy of her that we find out at the end, shooting down the plane that the Doctor and Oswald, is that her name? No, Osgood, that's it. The Osgood's in. Oswald's Clara's last name. That's an interesting cliffhanger. I mean, of course they were going to get out of it, but pretty cool cliffhanger. And I like the whole thing with Clara, getting turned into a Zygon, but we don't really know until the end. And I think it's a fairly good story. It's a nice little, payoff from kind of, going off from Day of the Doctor as well. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. Number 5. 42 from Series 3. Now here's what I think is one of the most underrated Doctor Who stories. Now, no, I don't rate it massively highly. I think I rate it like a 7.5. I may even rate it an 8 out of 10. I'm not sure. But 42 I think is a really overlooked story. It was Chris Chibnall's first story, I think, that he wrote for the new series. And ultimately, I think it's actually one of his best. Yes, the kind of having these, pub quiz questions to go through the rooms, it was massively filler. They needed some filler for this episode, so that's what they did. And I don't really like that part of the story. I think it's a little bit silly. It has some nice moments though, with Martha talking to her mum, but ultimately, yeah, it's just there as filler. However, I do love some of the stuff with Martha talking to her mum when she gets stuck in the capsule, when the Doctor has to look into the sun, accidentally looks into the sun to save Martha, and then David Tennant's acting when he's, when he's burning up. It's crazy. It's really good, and honestly, I really don't think that this episode is bad at all. Number 4. Amy's Choice from Series 5. Here's an episode that I am a little bit here and there with, but I've got it pretty high up in number 4 spot here. I love the concept of this episode. It's a really good concept. This Dream Lord, the Doctor, Amy and Rory, they're in a dream, but which one's the dream? They've got these two realities to choose from. They're in the TARDIS, and it's going near a cold star, and it's freezing, and they're going to freeze to death. Or they're in this world where Amy and Rory are married. Well, I think they're already married. No, they're married here anyway. Amy's pregnant, and it's just kind of their ideal future. But there's these weird old people creatures. Which one is the real one? They have to choose which one's real, and ultimately, spoilers, neither of them are real, which I'm a little bit iffy about, but at the same time, I like it. It's interesting. And generally, this story is quite interesting, and I love the Dream Lord. He's great. I think my main issue with this one is the old people aliens. They look a bit silly. Other than that, though, brilliant concept and a really good episode altogether. Number 3. A Good Man Goes to War from Series 6. Now we have the last Matt Smith story to go through today. He's actually done pretty good this week. Matt Smith's Doctor's kind of been a little bit further down for a lot of the episodes recently. But yeah, Good Man Goes to War gets the 3rd spot. Now I'm going to be honest, I dislike this episode a little more in my most recent viewing of it, but I still really like it. I think it does great at the whole thing. Start out pretty bleak. The Doctor's winning, the Doctor's won, but not quite, and then at the last second, everything shoots right down. He's at his lowest again, but then there's the reveal of River being Amy and Rory's daughter, which is just a massive reveal, one of the biggest in the show's history. So this story is very up and down and all over the place, but it's really good at that. Now, I still think at some points it is a bit weirdly paced because of that, I think, but generally this is still a good episode. I didn't enjoy it as much, like I said, but yeah, there's no denying it does what it does very well. Number 2. KaBlam from Series 11. Now, people may not agree with me having it this high up, and to be honest, I probably need to watch it again. I've only seen it twice, but I think KaBlam's definitely my favourite 11th Doctor episode from 11th Doctor episode? Series 11 episode, sorry. For sure. I think it's just the most interesting. I really like the KaBlam man, such a cool design. There's some pretty crappy CGI here and there, like when they're going on the conveyor belts, but ultimately I think this is really interesting. There's some good character stuff going on here. I quite like the twist of, I can't remember his name, but the janitor being the bad guy. Now ultimately, I think the end is a bit cliche and a bit crappy, but there's something I still really like about the story. It felt a lot more Doctor Who-y compared to a lot of what we'd already seen in Series 11. Maybe on rewatch I'll dislike it a little more, but at this current point in time, yeah, KaBlam gets the number 2 spot. Number 1. The Unicorn and the Wasp from Series 4. I think this episode I enjoy more and more every time I watch it. It used to kind of just be yeah, this is just kind of an average story. Then it went up a little higher. Now it's up even higher. It's not like a 10 out of 10 or anything, but honestly, it's like an 8.5 or even a 9, I reckon. It's just such a fun episode, and it's really good. The whole kind of we've got Agatha Christie, and we've got kind of this whole Cluedo sort of, plot of it, and the way it's structured, and it's just so good, and it's funny. I love the bits where, the Doctor's like, it could be you, and he like goes to Donna, and Donna's like, what? Oh, so she did it, and he did it, and I did it, and you did it, and it's just this whole pointing and fingers and everything, and it's hilarious. I love the thing where the Doctor gets poisoned and he has to detox, the Camptown racist thing and the too salty, and it's just hilarious. And the Wasp is the downfall for this. I think having a giant wasp is a little bit boring and a little bit crap, but you know what, it works here, and generally this episode is just funny, and that's why it gets the number 1 spot. Alright, so there we have it. That's my ranking of every episode 7 from series 1 to 12. What do you guys think of my ranking? What are your rankings of all 12 episodes? Please tell me in the comments down below. That would be awesome. And yeah, let's all talk about it and see what we think. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. That would be awesome. And I'll see you guys in the next video.